Well, it's the biggest of the supermarket chains, the bluest of blue-chip Australian companies. But Woolworths has been unable to shake the perception that it's taken its eye off the ball and that it's their rivals that have what the customer wants. And today, an embattled Chief Executive Grant O'Brien paid the price and quit as Woolies heads towards its first annual profit drop in 19 years. Competition is hot. Rivals Coles has been revitalised under Wesfarmers ownership and been outperforming Woolies on same-store sales growth since 2009. And Aldi has been expanding aggressively, attracting customers with a value proposition that's already proven successful in Europe. IGA's owner Metcash has been bearing the brunt of this fierce competition. Its disappointing results this week shows just how tough the environment is. But it's not all of Woolies' problems are down to the competition. Building the Masters hardware chain from scratch to take on Bunnings has cost around $3 billion so far. And prices at the checkout are back in focus, with the Cheap Cheap campaign struggling against the status quo with Coles Down Down ads. Last month, Woolworths announced a renewed focus on its core food and liquor business, but today's trading update shows no improvement. Now, after starting as a shelf stacker 28 years ago, Grant O'Brien is parting ways with Woolies as the axe falls on another 1,200 staff. Andrew Robertson reports.
When Grant O'Brien took over the top job in October 2011, Woolworths was the unstoppable juggernaut of Australian retailing. Nearly 4 years on, it's a very different story. Profit growth has stalled and in an ultra-competitive retail market, Woolies has lost its way. As the man at the top, Grant O'Brien has bowed to pressure and accepted responsibility for the company's plight just weeks after the announcement of a new strategy aimed at reversing the slide.
I will repeat it today that our recent performance has not been acceptable to any of us.
Mr O'Brien was one of the architects of Woolworths' expansion into hardware, where billions of dollars have been spent creating Masters.
It's turned into one of the greatest own goals in Australian retail history.
Masters has made little impression on industry leader Bunnings, with losses in the last financial year blowing out to $176 million as the break-even date gets pushed further into the future.
When Bunnings got to $1 billion in sales, the first billion, they made $100 million profit. When Masters got to the first $1.2 billion, they lost $157 million. That's a $250 million swing. That is huge.
Cheap, cheap. Really, really cheap.
The bigger battleground, though, has been in supermarkets, where Wesfarmers has again had the upper hand, with a resurgent Coles showing Woolworths to be staid, out of touch and unable to keep up.
There's a lot of kicking from the top down. There's a lot of people who are protecting their fiefdoms, and there's a bureaucracy in Woolworths that doesn't fit a fast-moving retail business for the 21st century.
Earnings were down 3% in the first half of this financial year. Woolworths shares have fallen 20% in the last 4 months and are down 30% on where they were just over a year ago. Along the way, there have been other missteps, such as the sale of Dick Smith Electronics for just $20 million. Dick Smith's new private equity owners then floated the company for nearly $350 million. While Grant O'Brien's resignation has grabbed the headlines, those that follow Woolworths closely believe the problems at the company are bigger than just one man. Front and centre, they say, is the board, which appointed Mr O'Brien and endorsed his strategies.
Woolworths board lacks retail sensitivity, lacks a sensitivity for Woolworths and its place in Australian retail, and lacks connection to the consumers that it serves.
Oryx's Rob Lake agrees and goes further. He thinks Woolworths' board has allowed a culture of arrogance to develop, which is focused on the past and not the future.
Woolworths have continued to believe they were number one, and they have failed to question what they were doing and to adapt to the new challenge from Coles and the new entrants in Aldi to the market.
Grant O'Brien won't be the only person leaving Woolworths. The company has also announced it's axing 1,200 support staff, but denies it's a result of the huge losses at Masters.
It has everything to do with us moving to what will be required for Woolworths in the future, which is a lean retail model to provide flexibility and allow us to invest in customer-facing issues.
Mr O'Brien won't be departing immediately. Woolworths has begun a global search for his successor.
Andrew Robertson with that report.